Captain Han stood on the bridge of the Earthship Pioneer. The ship was old, 73 years old to be exact. Most captains wanted new ships with shiny parts and fast engines, but not Han. He loved the Pioneer, rust spots and all. "Captain, we have a message coming in," said Kim, the woman who handled all communications on the ship. Her eyes grew wide as she looked at her screen. "Sir, it's not from Earth or any human colony." Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing. Humans had been traveling in space for many years but had never met aliens before. Until now, it seemed. "Put it on the main screen," Han said, fixing his uniform and standing tall. The large screen at the front of the bridge turned on. On it was a being that looked somewhat like a human but with blue skin and a long face. The alien spoke, and after a few seconds the ship's computer translated the words. "Unknown ship. This is High Commander Lee of the Galactic Confederation. You are in our space without permission. Tell us who you are right now." Han took a step forward. "I am Captain Han of the Earth Defense Ship Pioneer. We did not know this area belonged to anyone. We come in peace and are sorry for entering your space." The blue alien looked closely at Han and the other humans on the bridge. "Earth? We have never heard of your world." The alien's eyes moved over what it could see of the ship. "And your ship looks very old. How did you even get this far? From your home in such an outdated vessel?" Han felt a flash of anger at the insult to his beloved ship, but kept his face calm. "The Pioneer may be old, but she is strong and reliable. We would be happy to meet with you to establish good relations between our peoples." "Very well," said Commander Lee. "Follow our ships to our space station. We are curious about your simple technology." When the screen went dark, Han's second-in-command, Park, came to stand beside him. "They don't think much of us or our ship, Captain." "No, they don't," Han agreed, watching as sleek alien ships surrounded the Pioneer. "But sometimes it's good, when others think you're weaker than you are." The journey to the alien space station took 3 hours. During that time, Han gathered his top officers to prepare for the meeting. "We need to be careful," he told them in the ship's meeting room. "We know nothing about these aliens or their intentions. Be polite, but don't share too much information about Earth or our defenses." Security Chief Kang nodded. "I've noticed their ships have powerful weapons, much more advanced than what we show on our hull. We should be ready for trouble." Science Officer Choi was studying data on her tablet. "Their technology is clearly ahead of ours in many areas, but I've detected some strange energy readings from their ships that I can't explain." Han looked at Diplomatic Officer Song, a small woman with a calm presence. "Your job will be the hardest. Try to learn as much as you can while saying as little as possible." Song nodded. "I understand, Captain." The Pioneer approached the alien space station. It was enormous, at least 10 times the size of Earth's largest station. The structure gleamed in the light of the nearby star, with hundreds of ships of different designs docked at various points. "They've sent docking instructions," Kim said from her station. "They want us to connect at Bay 42. "Take us in slowly," Han ordered the pilot. "Let's not scratch their nice station with our outdated vessel." The Pioneer moved carefully to the assigned docking bay. Through the main view screen, Han could see aliens of different shapes and colors watching from windows as the Earthship approached. Some pointed, others seemed to be laughing. "They're treating us like a curiosity," Park said quietly. "Let them," Han replied. "Pride comes before a fall." With a gentle thud, the Pioneer connected to the station. Lights on the control panel confirmed a good seal between the ship and the station's airlock. "Atmospheric pressure is compatible with ours," Choi reported after checking her instruments. "Oxygen levels slightly higher, but within safe limits." Han nodded. "Good. Kang, you've selected the security team?" "Yes, sir. 4 officers, lightly armed as you requested." "Song, you have the diplomatic package ready?" The diplomatic officer held up a small, ornate box. "Traditional gifts from Earth, along with data crystals containing basic information about our culture and history. Nothing sensitive." "Excellent." Han looked around at his team. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today. This first impression will shape how these aliens view our species for years to come. A message came through the ship's speakers. Earth vessel, this is station control. You are cleared to enter. An escort is waiting at the airlock. Han straightened his uniform one last time. Let's meet our new galactic neighbors. The small delegation from Earth stepped through the airlock into the station. The corridor was tall and wide, with smooth walls that glowed with soft light. Waiting for them was a group of aliens, mostly the blue-skinned type they had seen on the view screen, but also some with scales and others with 4 arms. One stepped forward. I am Tay, assistant to High Commander Lee. Welcome to Outpost Zeta, the primary diplomatic hub of the Galactic Confederation in this sector. Han bowed slightly. Thank you for your welcome. I am Captain Han of the Earth Defense Ship Pioneer. These are my officers, Park, Choi, Kang, and Song. The alien Tai looked them over with an expression Han couldn't read. Follow me. The High Command is eager to learn about your species. As they walked through the station, the humans stared in wonder at the various aliens they passed. Some were humanoid, others completely different from any life form on Earth. There were floating creatures that seemed made of gas, and tall, thin beings with skin that changed colors as they moved. How many species are in your confederation? Song asked Tay. 27 full members, and 42 protectorate species, Tay replied. Yours would be the first new contact in nearly 50 years. They entered a large room with a round table. Seated around it were aliens of different types, all wearing similar uniforms with different colored markings. At the head of the table sat Commander Lee. Welcome, humans, Lee said, standing. Please join us. We have much to discuss about your unexpected arrival in Confederation space. As Han and his team took their seats, he noticed the aliens exchanging glances and small smiles. One leaned over to whisper to another, who then looked at the humans with what appeared to be amusement. Han had been in enough meetings to recognize when he was being underestimated. These powerful aliens saw humans as primitive newcomers, barely worth serious attention. Little did they know what the old pioneer really was or what it could do. We look forward to establishing peaceful relations with the Confederation, Han said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The meeting room was large and impressive. The walls had moving images of strange stars and planets. The table was made of a material that looked like glass but felt warm to the touch. Captain Han and his team sat on one side, facing the alien leaders. High Commander Lee sat at the head of the table. Next to him was an alien with red scales who was introduced as Admiral Bay. There were 5 other aliens, each a different color and shape. So, Commander Lee began, tell us about Earth and how you came to have space travel. Song, the diplomatic officer, spoke in a clear, calm voice. Earth is the 3rd planet in our solar system. Humans began space exploration about 150 years ago. We now have colonies on 3 planets and 7 moons in our home system. Admiral Bay leaned forward. And this ship of yours, the Pioneer, when was it built? The Pioneer was launched 73 years ago, Han answered with pride. She was one of our first deep space vessels. The aliens exchanged looks. Admiral Bay made a sound that might have been a laugh. You're traveling between stars in a 73-year-old ship? Bay asked. That's like trying to cross an ocean in a hollow log. Han kept his face neutral, though he felt anger rising. The Pioneer has been updated over the years. She is still one of our most reliable ships. Another alien who had 4 arms and purple skin spoke up. We scanned your vessel upon arrival. Your propulsion system uses fusion power, correct? We haven't used such primitive technology in over 500 years. Yes, Science Officer Choi said, carefully. We use a modified fusion drive. The purple alien shook his head. Fascinating from a historical perspective, I suppose. Commander Lee tapped on the table, and a 3D image of the Pioneer appeared floating above them. The aliens began pointing at different parts of the ship, making comments that the translation system sometimes struggled to keep up with. Look at those hull plates. Is that actually a radio antenna? Their weapons are practically toys. Han watched as they pulled apart his ship with their words and looks. He glanced at Security Chief. Kang, who sat stiffly beside him. Kang's face was calm, but Han could see his hands were clenched under the table. Commander Lee dismissed the image with a wave. We are, of course, interested in learning more about your species. We would like to send a team to study your ship, if that's acceptable. Han smiled politely. We would be happy to give your scientists a tour of certain areas of the Pioneer. However, some sections are restricted, as I'm sure you understand. Admiral Bay made that laughing sound again. Restricted? What could you possibly have on that ancient vessel that would be of interest to us? Every ship has its secrets, Han said simply. This caused several of the aliens to laugh openly. One of them, a blue female with silver markings on her face, said something that the translator didn't catch. Whatever it was made the others laugh harder. Commander Lee held up a hand, and the laughter stopped. Of course, Captain Han. We respect your protocols. Perhaps we could start with your engine room? Our engineers are curious about how you manage interstellar travel with such basic technology. Han nodded. That can be arranged. We're also interested in learning about your civilization. How many worlds does the Confederation include? The Galactic Confederation spans 312 star systems, Lee answered. We have been united for over 2,000 years, bringing peace and order to this quadrant of the galaxy. Impressive, Song said. And how do new species join the Confederation? There was a brief pause before Lee answered. Through a process of integration, we help developing species advance until they are ready to become full members. That's very generous, Han said, noticing how the alien's words were carefully chosen. How long does this integration usually take? It varies, Admiral Bay cut in. Some species require more guidance than others. The meeting continued for another hour. The aliens asked many questions about Earth's resources, population, and military capabilities. They offered very little information about themselves in return. When they did speak of their technology or history, it was always to emphasize how advanced they were compared to humans. Finally, Commander Lee stood. This has been a productive first meeting. We will prepare quarters for you on the, station. Tomorrow we can begin a cultural exchange program. Thank you, Han said, also standing. But my crew and I will stay on our ship. We are comfortable there. Lee seemed surprised. Are you sure? Our accommodations are far superior to your vessel. I'm sure they are, Han replied. But the Pioneer is our home. We prefer to stay there. As you wish, Lee said with a slight bow. We will send an escort to bring you back to your docking bay. As they walked back through the station, Park moved close to Han and spoke quietly. They don't think much of us, Captain. No, they don't. Han agreed. Did you notice how interested they were in our defenses and resources? Yes, Kang joined in. And they asked 3 different ways about how many warships Earth has. Song nodded. Their integration process sounds suspiciously like colonization to me. They reached the airlock where the Pioneer was docked. The alien escort, Tay, bowed slightly. Until tomorrow, Captain Han. The High Command looks forward to continuing our discussions. Once they were back on the Pioneer and the airlock was sealed, Han called an immediate meeting in the secure briefing room. Unlike the rest of the ship, this room was sleek and modern, with advanced technology hidden behind panels that looked old and worn. Report, Han said once they were all seated. Choi spoke first. I used our passive scanners during the meeting. The station has significant weapon systems, mostly hidden. Their technology is advanced, but not as advanced as they want us to believe. What do you mean? Han asked. Some of it is for show, Choi explained, like fancy decorations on a simple tool. They're trying to impress us. Kang nodded. I noticed their security officers watching us closely. They're assessing if we're a threat. And clearly they've decided we're not, Park added. Han turned to Song. What did you make of them? The diplomatic officer frowned. They're hiding something. When I asked about how species joined their confederation, they became guarded. I suspect their integration is not voluntary. Han looked around at his team. I think we've found the reason for the Pioneer's mission. After 73 years of searching, we've finally made contact with an advanced alien civilization. And they don't seem friendly, Kang said grimly. No, Han agreed. But they've made one critical mistake. They think we're primitive because our ship looks old. They have no idea what the Pioneer really is or what it can do. Park leaned forward. Should we contact Earth Command, sir? Han thought for a moment. Not yet. If the Confederation is as advanced as they claim, they might detect the transmission. For now, we play along. Let them think we're simple and harmless while we learn more about them. And if they're hostile? Kang asked. Han's expression hardened. Then we show them why no one should judge a book by its cover. The meeting continued. As night fell on the alien station, lights dimmed throughout the Pioneer, making it look like an old sleeping vessel. But deep within the ship, behind walls that appeared rusty and outdated, advanced systems silently monitored the alien station, gathering data and preparing for any possible outcome. Tomorrow would bring a new day of pretending to be less than they were. But if these aliens proved to be enemies of Earth, they would soon learn that the ancient ship they had scoffed at was the most dangerous vessel they had ever encountered. The next morning, Captain Han prepared his ship for visitors. He ordered most of the advanced equipment to be hidden behind false walls and old-looking panels. The crew wore their simplest uniforms, making sure to look less advanced than they really were. Remember, Han told his crew, act impressed by their technology. Ask basic questions. Let them think we're simple explorers with old equipment. At exactly 0900 hours, the station sent a message. Admiral Bay was coming with 5 engineers to inspect the Pioneer. Right on time, Kang said as they watched the airlock. They're eager to see our primitive ship. The airlock opened, and Admiral Bay stepped onto the Pioneer. His red scales gleamed under the ship's lights. Behind him came 5 aliens in matching uniforms. Welcome aboard the Pioneer, Han said with a bow. Admiral Bay looked around the entry area with poorly hidden disgust. Thank you, Captain. My team is excited to see how your interesting vessel operates. Han smiled. We're happy to show you. Where would you like to start? The engine room, I think, Bay said. We're most curious about how this ship manages interstellar travel. Of course. Follow me. Han led the aliens through the ship's corridors. He had chosen a route that showed the oldest and most basic parts of the Pioneer. The aliens whispered to each other as they passed rusted pipes and flickering lights. How old is this section? One of the engineers asked, touching a wall panel that looked worn. Original construction, Han lied smoothly. The panel was actually brand new, made to look old. 73 years and still working. The engineer shook his head in wonder. Remarkable that it hasn't failed. They reached the engine room, or rather they reached what appeared to be the engine room. It was a large space filled with machinery that hummed and occasionally released steam. In the center was a glowing core that pulsed with blue light. Here we are, Han said, the heart of the Pioneer. Admiral Bay and his engineers moved around the room, studying the equipment. They used small devices to take readings and scan the machinery. A fusion reactor, one engineer said, looking at the core. Very basic design, but effective, and Han said. It's taken us to 12 star systems so far. Admiral Bay smiled, but his eyes were cold. At what speed? It must take your ship years to travel between stars. It does, Han agreed. We're patient travelers. While the aliens examined the engine room, Science Officer Choi was in her lab on a different deck. This was a real lab, not a fake one, though it could be quickly disguised if needed. Choi was monitoring the aliens through hidden cameras and scanning their equipment. She noticed something strange. The devices the aliens were using to scan the ship were sending signals back to the station, but they were also sending signals to somewhere else, far away. Choi traced the signals as best she could. They were going to another ship, one that was hiding at the edge of the star system. Choi immediately called Captain Han on a secure channel. Captain, we have a problem. Han excused himself from the engine room tour. What is it, Choi? The scanning devices they're using are communicating with a hidden ship outside the system. I think they're preparing for something. Han frowned. Keep monitoring. I'll try to get more information from our guests. When Han returned to the engine room, the aliens had finished their inspection. Admiral Bay looked bored. Your engine is exactly what we expected, Captain. Very historical. Now perhaps we could see your weapon systems? Of course, Han said. Though I should warn you, they're even more basic than our engines. As they walked to another section of the ship, Han decided to test a theory. Admiral, I notice your people are very interested in our defensive capabilities. Bay's expression didn't change. Simple curiosity. We like to understand the species we meet. Of course. And have you met many species with stronger weapons than yours? The Admiral's steps faltered for just a moment. There are no species with stronger weapons than the Confederation. We are the most advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy. I see, Han said, noting the pride and perhaps fear in the alien's voice. It must be a great responsibility to be so powerful. It is, Bay agreed. That's why we have our integration protocols. Lesser species need guidance to avoid destroying themselves. Like humans? Bay smiled. Your species has potential, Captain. With proper guidance, you might someday become a valuable part of the Confederation. They reached the weapons room. Like the engine room, it was a fake. It contained old laser cannons and simple missile launchers. The real weapons of the Pioneer were hidden elsewhere. The aliens were clearly not impressed. One engineer actually laughed as he examined an outdated targeting system. How do you defend yourselves with such weapons? Bay asked. They wouldn't stop even a small attack ship. Han shrugged. We've never needed to fight. Space is big. Until now, we've never met anyone else. You're fortunate then, Bay said. The galaxy can be dangerous for unprepared species. After the tour, the aliens returned to their station. As soon as they were gone, Han called an emergency meeting. Choi, what have you found? He asked as his officers gathered in the secure room. The Confederation is lying to us, Choi said. She projected an image above the table. It showed a large fleet of ships hiding on the far side of the star system. They have at least 30 warships waiting out there, and I've intercepted some of their communications. What are they saying? Park asked. They're discussing something called Protocol 7. It appears to be their standard procedure for dealing with new species. First, they assess the species' technology level. Then, if the species is less advanced than them, they begin integration. What does integration involve? Song asked. Choi's face was grim. From what I can tell, they surround the home planet of the new species with ships. Then they demand that the planet join the Confederation. If the planet refuses, they attack. Kang finished. Yes, Choi said. They've done this at least 27 times. That's how the Confederation has grown. So large. Han looked at his officers. So they're planning to attack Earth. It seems likely, Choi agreed. They've already decided our technology is no threat to them. Based on what they've seen of the Pioneer, they think Earth would be easy to conquer. Little. Do they know? Park said with a small smile. Han nodded. The Pioneer was built for exactly this situation. For 73 years, Earth has been sending out ships like ours looking for other civilizations. We always hoped we would find friendly ones. But Earth prepared for the worst, Kang added. Yes, Han said. And now we need to decide how to respond. The Confederation is powerful. Even with the Pioneer's real capabilities, we can't fight their entire fleet. Maybe we don't have to, Song suggested. If we could convince them that Earth is more powerful than they think, they might reconsider their plans. Han thought for a moment. We need more information before we act. Choi, keep monitoring their communications. Kang, prepare the real weapon systems, but keep them hidden for now. Park, be ready to send an emergency message to Earth if things go wrong. And what about our dinner with Commander Lee tonight? Song asked. We'll attend, Han said. And we'll continue to play our role as simple explorers, but stay alert. I have a feeling the Confederation is planning to move soon. As night fell on the station, The crew of the Pioneer prepared for dinner with their hosts, knowing that behind the polite smiles and fancy food, a dangerous game was being played. The aliens thought they were dealing with a weak, primitive species. Soon they would discover just how wrong they were. The dinner with Commander Lee was held in a grand room on the alien station. The walls showed moving pictures of strange worlds. The ceiling looked like a night sky with stars that slowly moved. The food was served on plates that seemed to float above the table. Captain Han and his officers sat on one side of the table. Commander Lee, Admiral Bay, and 4 other high-ranking aliens sat on the other side. The food was strange but not unpleasant. Small robots moved around the table, filling glasses with a blue drink that tasted like sweet berries. "I hope you've enjoyed your tour of our station," Commander Lee said. "It must be quite different from your Earth technology." Han nodded. "It's very impressive. We have much to learn from the Confederation." Admiral Bay smiled. "Indeed you do. Our inspection of your ship confirmed what we suspected. Your technology is several centuries behind ours." "We're a young species," Song said politely, "still learning our way among the stars." Commander Lee leaned forward. "That's why species like yours benefit from our guidance. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for those who aren't prepared." "What kind of dangers?" Han asked, pretending to be concerned. "There are predatory species," Lee explained. "Civilizations that conquer and destroy rather than build and share. Without our protection, your Earth might fall victim to such aggressors." "That sounds frightening," Han said. "How does your protection work?" Lee and Bay exchanged a quick glance. "We would establish a presence in your solar system," Lee said carefully. "Confederation ships would patrol your space. In return, Earth would provide resources and accept our guidance in advancing your technology." "I see," Han said. "And if Earth preferred to develop on its own?" The room grew quiet. Admiral Bay's scales seemed to darken slightly. "That would be unwise," Lee said. "The protection of the Confederation is not optional, it is for your own good." "Of course," Han said quickly. "I was just curious." The conversation moved to other topics, but the message was clear. The Confederation was not offering friendship. They were demanding submission. After dinner, as they walked back to their ship, Park whispered to Han, "They're not even trying to hide their intentions anymore." "No," Han agreed. "They think we're too primitive to understand what's happening." When they reached the Pioneer, Choi was waiting with urgent news. "Captain, I've decoded more of their communications. The fleet we detected is preparing to move. They plan to enter Earth's solar system in 3 days." Han's face grew hard. "Then we need to act now. Is the subspace transmitter ready?" "Yes, sir," Choi said. "But even with our technology, it will take at least 5 days for a message to reach Earth. Their fleet will arrive before any warning we send." "Then we need to delay them," Han said. "Kang, what's the status of our weapons?" "Ready, Captain. But even with our full capabilities, we can't defeat their entire fleet." "We don't need to defeat them," Han said. "We just need to change their minds about Earth." Han called his officers to the real command center of the Pioneer. Unlike the old bridge they had shown to the aliens, this room was sleek and modern. Advanced screens covered the walls. The officers sat in comfortable chairs that adjusted to their bodies. "Tomorrow," Han said, "Admiral Bay is returning with their chief scientist. They want to examine our communication systems. We're going to use that opportunity to show them what the Pioneer really is." "Is that wise, Captain?" Song asked. "Once they know our true capabilities, they might attack immediately." "They're already planning to attack Earth," Han said. "But right now they think it will be easy. We need to make them think twice." The next morning, Admiral Bay arrived with a tall, thin alien introduced as Chief Scientist Du. They were escorted to what appeared to be the Pioneer's communication room. It contained old radio equipment and simple computer screens. "This is your communication technology?" Du asked, not bothering to hide his contempt. "One of our systems," Han said. "We use it for basic transmissions." Du examined the equipment, making notes on a small device. With this system, your messages would take years to reach your home planet. Yes, Han agreed. That's why we also have this. Han pressed his hand against a wall panel. It scanned his palm and then slid open, revealing a hidden door. Admiral. Bay and Scientist Du stared in surprise. What is this? Bay demanded. The real pioneer, Han said, stepping through the door. Please join me. Confused and curious, the two aliens followed Han into a corridor that looked nothing like the rest of the ship. This hallway was clean and modern, with smooth walls that glowed with soft light. I don't understand, Du said, looking around. This technology. Han led them into a large room filled with advanced equipment. Screens showed detailed images of the station and the surrounding space. Officers worked at stations that responded to voice commands and hand gestures. Welcome to the true command center of the Earth Defense Ship Pioneer, Han said. Bay's scales had turned a pale pink, a sign of shock. This is impossible. Your technology, it's not as primitive as you thought, Han finished. The Pioneer is what we call a wolf in sheep's clothing. On the outside, an old, harmless explorer. On the inside, one of Earth's most advanced warships. But our scans, Du began, detected exactly what we wanted them to, Han explained. The outer hull of the Pioneer is designed to absorb and redirect scanning beams. Your readings showed you an old fusion reactor because that's what we wanted you to see. Bay seemed to recover from his shock. His scales darkened to a deep red. This deception changes nothing. The Confederation fleet is still far more powerful than a single ship, no matter how advanced. True, Han agreed. But the Pioneer isn't just a warship. It's also a message. Han nodded to Choi, who activated a large screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of small blue dots scattered across it. Each blue dot is a ship like the Pioneer, Han explained. For over 70 years, Earth has been sending out ships disguised as simple explorers. They've been mapping the galaxy and looking for other civilizations. Impossible, Du whispered. The resources required. Earth has been preparing for this moment for generations, Han said. We hoped to find friends among the stars, but we prepared for enemies. Bay stared at the map. This could be a trick, a false image to frighten us. It could be, Han agreed. But ask yourself this. If we can hide this level of technology from your scans, what else might we be hiding? Is Earth really the primitive planet you believe it to be? Are you willing to risk your fleet to find out? Du turned to Bay. Admiral, if what he's showing us is true, quiet, Bay snapped. His scales were now flashing between red and pink as he struggled with anger and fear. Han walked to another console and pressed a button. A hologram appeared, showing a detailed image of the Confederation fleet hiding at the edge of the system. We've known about your fleet since yesterday, Han said. We've analyzed your ships, mapped their weaknesses, and prepared countermeasures. This is an act of war, Bay said, his voice shaking. No, Han replied calmly. This is an act of prevention. We don't want war, Admiral. We want peace between equals. Not submission disguised as protection. Bay and Du looked at each other, then at the advanced room around them. The aliens seemed to be seeing the humans for the first time, not as primitive beings to be conquered, but as equals with technology that might match or even exceed their own. What do you want? Bay finally asked. A real conversation, Han said, between equals, about how Earth and the Confederation can live in peace. As the aliens took in the true nature of the Pioneer and its implications, the balance of power in the room, and perhaps in this part of the galaxy, began to shift. Admiral Bay and Chief Scientist Du were taken to the Pioneer's conference room. This was not the simple room they had seen before. This one had walls made of a smooth black material that seemed to absorb light. The table was a single piece of crystal that glowed softly from within. Captain Han sat at one end with Park and Song beside him. The two aliens sat at the other end, still looking shocked. Your deception was impressive, Bay finally said. His scales had settled into a deep orange color. But Commander Lee will not be pleased. I'm sure he won't, Han agreed. But the deception was necessary. We needed to understand your intentions before revealing ourselves. Du was studying a small device in his hands. I still can't believe our scans were so wrong. The technology required to fool our systems is beyond anything we have. Not beyond, Han corrected. Just different. Earth took a different path in its development. Bai leaned forward. You said you want peace. What are your terms? First, the Confederation fleet must leave this system, Han said. Second, we want honest diplomatic talks as equals. No more talk of integration or protection. And if we refuse? Bai asked. Han pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared showing the Pioneer. The image zoomed out to reveal hundreds of small objects surrounding the ship. These are what we call microdrones, Han explained. Each one carries a quantum disruptor, small but powerful enough to disable a ship the size of your station. They've been deployed around the Pioneer since we arrived. Impossible, Du whispered. We would have detected them. They're cloaked, Han said. Another technology you thought we didn't have. Bai's scales darkened. This is a threat. No, Han said firmly. This is a demonstration. We don't want to fight. But we will defend ourselves if necessary. Before Bai could respond, an alarm sounded. Kang's voice came over the speaker. Captain, the station is powering up its weapon systems, and the Confederation fleet has changed course. They're heading this way at high speed. It seems Commander Lee has made his decision, Han said, looking at Bai. Did you inform him of what you've seen? No, Bai said, his scales now pale with fear. I haven't sent any messages. Then they must have been monitoring us, Han said. He stood up. We need to return to the bridge. You two will come with us. The real bridge of the Pioneer was nothing like the old-fashioned room the aliens had seen before. It was a large circular space with workstations around the edges and a command chair in the center. Large screens showed the space around the ship, the approaching fleet, and the station. Status report, Han ordered as he sat in the command chair. Station weapons at 80% power and rising, Kang reported. Their shields are activating. The fleet will arrive in approximately 20 minutes. They're preparing to attack, Park said. Han turned to Bai and Do. It seems your Commander Lee doesn't want to talk. Bai looked at the screens showing the approaching fleet. He believes your ship is no match for our forces. Even with your advanced technology, one ship cannot defeat 30. We don't need to defeat them, Han said. He looked at Choi. Activate the quantum displacement drive. Choi pressed several controls on her console. The lights on the bridge dimmed for a moment, then returned to normal. On the screens, something strange happened. The image of the Pioneer split into 3 identical ships. What is this? Du asked, staring at the screen in wonder. Quantum displacement, Choi explained. We're creating phase-shifted copies of the Pioneer. To your sensors, it will appear that there are 3 ships where there was 1. Illusions, Bai said dismissively. Not real ships. Not exactly illusions, Han said. Each copy can act independently, including firing weapons. As if to demonstrate, one of the Pioneer copies fired a beam of energy at an empty area of space. A small explosion marked where the beam hit something invisible. One of your cloaked scout ships, Han explained. Now do you understand? We know where all your ships are, even the hidden ones. We can fight as if we were 3 ships, not 1. And each of those micro-drones I showed you can also create copies of itself. Du's eyes widened. So instead of hundreds of drones, thousands, Han finished. Enough to disable your entire fleet. On the main screen, Commander Lee's face appeared. He looked angry. Captain Han, he said coldly, your deception ends now. You will surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded. Earth will join the Confederation on our terms. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Commander, Han replied calmly. Look at your sensors. See what you're really facing. Lee looked at something off-screen. His expression changed from confidence to confusion, then to alarm. This is some kind of trick, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. No trick, Han said. Just technology you didn't know we had. Now, We can continue this confrontation, which will end badly for everyone, or we can talk as equals. Lee was silent for a long moment. Finally, he said, "What do you propose?" "Call back your fleet," Han said. "Power down your weapons, then we'll send a message to Earth together proposing a proper diplomatic meeting, not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals." "You would trust us after this?" Lee asked. "Trust must start somewhere," Han replied. "We'll take the first step, if you will." Lee looked at Bay and Do, who were visible on his screen. "Admiral, your assessment?" Bay straightened. "They could have attacked us already, Commander. I believe they genuinely want peace." "And their technology?" Lee asked. "Equal to ours," Do said. "Perhaps superior in some areas." Lee's face showed a mix of emotions: anger, fear, and finally, resignation. "Very well. I will recall the fleet and power down our weapons. But know this, Captain Han. The Confederation has never treated with a new species as an equal before." "Then we'll make history together," Han said with a small smile. Over the next few hours, the tension slowly eased. The Confederation fleet returned to its position at the edge of the system. The station's weapons powered down. Han sent a message to Earth, explaining the situation and requesting diplomatic support. As the day ended, Han stood in his private quarters, looking out at the stars. Park entered after knocking. "The Earth Council has responded, Captain," she said. "They're sending 5 diplomatic ships. They'll be here in 2 weeks." "Good," Han said. "How are our guests doing?" "Better," Park replied. "Admiral Bay has been speaking with Commander Lee. I think they're starting to accept that humans aren't what they expected." Han nodded. "The Confederation has ruled this part of space for a long time. It won't be easy for them to see us as equals." "You think real peace is possible?" Park asked. "I do," Han said. "Today we showed them that humans can be dangerous when threatened. Tomorrow we'll show them that we can also be friends when respected." He turned from the window to face his second-in-command. "For 73 years, ships like the Pioneer have searched the stars, hoping to find other intelligent life. We always hoped this moment would come, not the confrontation, but what follows. The beginning of a new relationship between different peoples." "It almost went very wrong," Park observed. "Yes," Han agreed. "But sometimes the best beginnings come after near disasters." Outside the window, the alien station glowed against the darkness of space. On both the station and the Pioneer, humans and aliens were beginning to learn about each other, not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals with different histories and knowledge to share. The Pioneer, the old ship that the aliens had laughed at, had changed the course of galactic history. Not through war, but by being ready for it, and by choosing peace when the moment came.